Happy Halloween, everyone. Welcome to Bitwarden Vault Hours. So excited that you're joining us. We have a very special edition of the Bitwarden Vault Hours for you today. Not only is it Halloween, but we also have a lovely guest from HackerOne joining us today that will be sharing a little bit about what they do. Hi, Jack. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Um,
Jack.
So we have a pretty awesome agenda ready for you guys. First, starting off with scary security stories from the community. If you've joined a previous Vault Hours, you know that we typically do this every Halloween, but sourcing some really scary stories from the community on our Reddit and community forums about some scary security practices that people have seen in their lives. And I already alluded to this. We have HackerOne here as well, who's going to share a little trick or treat session, and they'll dive into that a little bit more. It wouldn't be Vault Hours if we didn't share some product updates as well. So we have a short little descriptor of the Bitwarden desktop app direct import, which is newly available, and a refresher on emergency access. We also have a section on a key differentiator for Bitwarden, which is centralized ownership structure and what that means for scalable sharing and sharing passwords within your organization. And then lastly, stick around because we'll be asking everyone joining today what they would like to see out of Vault Hours in 2026. These sessions are meant for the Bitwarden community, and so we want to make sure that whatever is being shared is something that our community is interested in. So please stick around to share some of your feedback, thoughts, ideas, and suggestions. Amazing. Okay, so jumping right in, if you've joined Bitwarden Vault Hours before, you know that this is not intended to be a webinar of sorts, right? This is really a chance for us as people who work at Bitwarden to connect with you, the people who also use it. So please, if you have a live question or comment, just say so in the chat and we'll make sure that you get promoted up to the screen and we can talk live. But throughout the session, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A pane as well. We'll stop whatever we're talking about to make sure that those questions are answered.
Yeah, it's a completely unserious conversation, very casual. We have a hot dog on screen, just to level set. So yeah, anytime you want to come up, pretty casual.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I didn't even introduce myself. I am a skeleton this Halloween, and I'll be running Vault Hours for you today. And I know my colleagues have also dressed up as well, and so I'm sure they'll be introducing some of their Halloween costumes. I love to see this every year. This is my favorite. Okay, let's see if there's any initial questions that have come through. Nothing so far, but as a reminder, feel free to put them up in the chat or in the questions pane as we go along. Great. So, jumping into some of these scary security stories, right? I already kind of alluded to this, but every year we've been asking our Bitwarden community what are some of the most horrifying security decisions that they've seen being made by friends, by coworkers, by colleagues, by neighbors, or even yourself, right? And so we had some users share some of the scariest stories they have that really keep them up at night. And I picked some of them that I thought were the scariest out there, but there really are some horrifying security practices out there. So wanted to kind of, give you a little bit of goosebumps, share some not ghost stories, but scary stories for this Halloween season. So one trend I absolutely saw and we see time and time again is poor password complexity, not just on the user's end, but on the end of the provider, right? This first user says that Spanish banks' password policies there are a joke and a very bad one. And they shared an example of BBVA, one of the biggest Spanish banks, and they have 6 characters maximum and no symbols for their password requirement. Very similarly, the Nevada DMV requires 8-character passwords exactly, and they are case insensitive. So again, this is really poor entropy and really terrifying whenever you're protecting things like your driving registration and then also your bank. So absolutely terrifying, giving me shivers. Wow. Just looking at the comments right now. David says that his friend stored his passwords in his telephone contact list. That is terrifying. Yeah, as we go throughout some of these stories as well, add emojis, add some of your scary experiences. We'd love to hear them.
I guess if it was in the contact list, nobody would expect to find it there, right?
In theory, yeah,
Security through obscurity.
Are
unless
you using,
label it as
biometrics and a
password.
pin on your phone? I hope.
Some other really scary stories that our community members shared was around scams, breaches, and viruses that have affected them or their companies. DJ Penny, who is a very active community member and typically a regular at Fall Hours as well, says that 25 years ago, the I Love You virus took their Fortune 100 company to its knees. For those who might not be familiar, the I Love You virus was a computer virus that was disguised as a love letter of sorts. It had an attached text file that would send copies of itself to their Outlook contacts in their address book, but also overwrite files as well. So it caused a lot of widespread damage for a lot of companies and individuals as well. It's estimated that it inflicted costs of billions of dollars. So a really, really big impact. This other user says that during the initial LastPass breach, they were a member of the app, and then it was claimed that the what caused the initial breach was fixed. All the resources were hardened and they would never be breached again, and yet there was another breach. So we welcome you, Reddit user, to to Bitwarden, and hopefully, all your passwords were changed and updated after those breaches. This last user says that a relative of theirs clicked on some random link they saw on Facebook and it claimed to sell them weight loss drugs. Well, it was a complete scam and they got scammed $3,000. They were lucky to get the money reimbursed from the bank, though. So, this is also a great reminder that whenever you're making online purchases, use a credit card when possible. It is a lot easier to get money back for fraudulent transactions through a credit card as opposed to a debit card. So, always a good reminder to kind of use use those practices whenever making online purchases. So, I mean, David, you kind of alluded to this, right? Your friend stored his passwords in his telephone contact list. A lot of other people store passwords in an insecure way. This first user says that their nearby Staples has a piece of laminated paper taped to their Amazon's return desk in full customer view with two barcodes on it, one labeled username and the other one password. So very, very dangerous if you don't want unauthorized users to access that Amazon admin account. This next user says that a former schoolmate told everyone he knew his debit card PIN. His reasoning: so if I forget it, there's a high chance someone around me knows the PIN. That's terrifying, thinking that everyone in your circle, your social circle, would know your debit card PIN. Again, try and use credit cards when you can. This next user, very similar to storing passwords in a telephone contact list, they had a friend send all of their passwords to their own email address so they could find them in their email inbox. Not a very secure way to find and store their passwords long term. Now, this one really, really cracks me up, but also terrifies me in the same way. This user says a genius friend, genius in quotes, decided to get a tattoo of their only password so they would never forget it. The flaw in their master plan was tattooing the password on their knuckles, so now they can see it easily, and so can everyone else. This almost feels fake. I feel like this
Yeah, that
is
can't
like
be real, right?
like a
I
this
hope
this
not.
can't be real. This feels like a an SNL skit of sorts. It's just so so horrifying. So hopefully they've changed that password and now just have a very specific tattoo. Adrian just posted in the chat, a friend's mom clicked a sponsored link when trying to do a Walmart return. It made her call a fake CS agent, download software to her phone, and when she gave them remote control, she proceeded to scream while watching the agent go through her Cash app and send themselves $300. That is terrifying. Again, don't click any links that you don't know where they're going or may look suspicious. Lots of different resources out there on what suspicious links might look like, when you think you might be getting scammed. Lots of different factors that go in there. But I hope that she got her money back. That's absolutely horrifying. Yeah, happy Halloween. Terrifying, terrifying story.
Adrian, you know people who aren't doing smart things. I hope I hope that because you're on vault hours, you're probably very security minded. So I hope you are helping these friends of yours be a little wiser online.
Absolutely. Speaking of being wise online and protecting your bank account details or your credit card details as well, these users make me really scared about, where my banking information is stored online. This one user says a venue I worked for had a shared drive on their public Wi-Fi with all their contracts saved to an unredacted saved to it unredacted with credit card numbers and other personally identifiable information. So very easy for hackers to access if they'd like to. Now, this user down below worked at a job site that processed credit cards, and they were in charge of maintenance for the card attaching and inserting machines. Since the machines had to verify all sorts of data on the cards to make sure the right cards were going to the correct customers, their company had a server in the server room to store all the credit card data, along with names and addresses. So basically, everything you'd see if you got a credit card in the mail. These were very heavily monitored, and if something went wrong with the server, they needed a manager and a security guard to accompany me into the server room and stay there the whole time I did anything. The user never pointed out that I had remote control access to the machine from my desk and could easily have copied anything I wanted without actually going into the server room. I called it security theater. I was the actor and there was the audience, and it was all fake. So also a very good reminder, if you see something that is insecure, you should raise your hand and try and point it out, right? Whether that is a family friend, whether that is where you are working, whether that is your partner, it doesn't hurt to kind of call out very insecure practices, because sometimes just people don't know any better. And as security experts, that's kind of our jobs, is to ensure that those who maybe don't have that information and resources can use you as a resource. Yeah, we have to help each other out. Absolutely. And then lastly, the scariest security story I have for you today. This one is a story of plain text social security numbers. About 25 years ago, I Googled a girl I was going on a date with and found that the local college had posted on the internet in Excel with every student's name, date of birth, and social security number, including hers. It was the top hit for her when searching on the internet. I emailed them to inform them, and they responded accusing me of hacking them, and it stayed up for about 6 months. So, absolutely terrifying, right? You probably haven't even, met this girl yet, and you already know her date of birth and social security number. A great reminder that if your social security number or other PII is exposed and you're scared of, identity theft, you know, take the steps to freeze your credit, ensure that no one can open a line of credit under your name, and absolutely flag that to the authorities, because that is absolutely terrifying. And the social security numbers is probably the thing that we should be protecting the most. So I hope I gave you some goosebumps and you kind of I can walk away with some good best practices to avoid these happening to you and the ones that you love. But yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. And with that, I also have HackerOne on the call. I've kind of introduced you already, Jack, but a little bit of a trick or treat session focusing on what HackerOne does, and then some myths with penetration testing and bug bounties as well. So, Jack, I know you have some topics to cover, so I'm going to hand it off to you if you'd like to share your screen.
Yes, and I think that's a great place to pick up. Let me just see here. We can see this now?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, just want to give a big shout out to the Bitwarden team for hosting us today on this very spooky Halloween here. And that's really where I wanted to start, actually. I think it's a great topic as we're talking about hackers, ethical hacking, and to kind of get more focused on what HackerOne is doing in this space, right? So just to rewind really quickly, my name is Jack Nunziato. I'm one of the sales development representatives for HackerOne in New York City. If there's any questions on any of these topics, we would love to connect. You can either drop them in the chat or find me on LinkedIn, and our team is absolutely ready to help. So it's Halloween, right? And the reason I'm not in costume today is all the spookiness is already out there. It's in the headlines, right? We're seeing this every single day, and just to piggyback on some of the stories that Bitwarden has just presented on, we're seeing this a lot, not only at the personal level, the business level, but within the enterprise security space. So, as more organizations are developing more technologies, widening their digital attack surface, deploying things like generative AI, where there's creating a lot more attack surface for attackers to go in on. So when we look at HackerOne and what our purpose is here is we're really trying to empower the world to build a safer internet, right? And this is a very wide-reaching goal, but we're doing this in a very specific way through our collaboration with the ethical hacking community. So we have a community of over 2 million ethical researchers that partner with our organizations and their security teams to help harden their digital attack surfaces. So this idea really came about more than 10 years ago when our founders, who were very skilled ethical hackers at the time, were trying to get in touch with a lot of technology companies on public-facing vulnerabilities that they were finding in their systems. It came to find out that there really was no established channel for security researchers to actually go and ethically submit any of these vulnerabilities. So that's where HackerOne has come in, is partnering with this ethical hacking community and security researchers to help organizations find vulnerabilities in these systems. So just in the last year alone, we've had more than 80,000 vulnerabilities submitted within the last 12 months. 1 in 5 of these are with a high critical rating, meaning that this has severe and high business impact. So things like intellectual property leakage, data client leakage, and other things that can really put your organization in the wrong headline, and 1 critical vulnerability that's found every hour. So why are companies partnering with security researchers, right? Why do companies and security teams want to lean into the expertise of this global community? It really has to do with widening your coverage. When you think about the different ways that you can find vulnerabilities, a lot of organizations are leaning into red teaming, penetration testing, whether that's compliance driven or to find specific security gaps and security holes. But one of the main benefits of partnering with this ethical hacking community is you can get much wider coverage at a much wider scale. One of the reasons that security researchers want to work with security teams in this space is through bug bounty programs. So bug bounty programs offer financial incentives for Red Hat hackers and security researchers to help find higher critical vulnerabilities that could lead to those serious headlines. It's Halloween. I want to break down some really spooky myths in this space. Just when you hear about the words bug bounty, security researcher, hacker, what comes to mind, right? Oh, hackers can't be trusted. I hear this every single day. Who are the hackers? Where do they live? What do they do? Why do they do what they do? How do they do what they do, right? It's a very interesting area of red teaming and offensive security. So I'm here to bust this today. Giving hackers access to your systems might seem risky. And how do we know that they're not exploiting those vulnerabilities for their own personal benefit, right? The truth is that HackerOne hackers are extremely vetted. Within our bench alone, we have different levels of clear background checks. So most of your programs actually do have background checks in place for different security researchers that you want to engage with. So there is a vetting process that happens here at HackerOne when you do reach across that aisle and want to work with external security researchers. These ethical researchers are here and they're paid to protect, not exploit your systems. Security myths from the crypt number 2. It's too expensive to run a bug bounty program. Even before I came to HackerOne, and you follow cybersecurity news, right? Who are the big bug bounty programs out there? You think about Microsoft and you think about Apple and Amazon. Oh, of course, these companies are successful in this space, right? They have millions of dollars to throw at researchers and to solve these problems. Well, it's actually a myth, I have to say. A lot of organizations from all different sizes are getting these benefits from partnering with the security researcher community. Because a lot of these models are based on these paid per findings, you're really only paying out to security researchers that are finding things with those more critical vulnerability types, right? So when you think about something that's paid out high versus low, there are different bounty tables, and obviously that varies by industry, vertical, company size, etc. A lot of security teams out there, maybe you're already doing penetration testing or using automated scanners, right, to scan your systems and your code for existing vulnerabilities. So why do you need humans in the loop, right? There's already automated tools out there that are kind of looking for known vulnerabilities that are maybe found in the OWASP top 10, as an example. The truth here is that a lot of these automated tools, they're missing logic flaws. And when we think about those headlines, right, those big scary headlines that lead to those massive data breaches and the intellectual property leakages, those automated tools aren't finding the same creative holes that maybe a human researcher might find. So it's the real human ingenuity and ethical hacking creativity that allows these attackers to move laterally, think about these business logic flaws, and uncover what machines can't. So why are leading brands choosing to work with HackerOne, right? It really comes down to this three-prong approach, whether it's trust, results, and innovation. Again, on that trust prong, we have a very deep sense of who we're working with, how you can work with them, how to streamline the vulnerability reporting process in a very way that doesn't overload your team with false negatives and false reporting, so you can really focus your time, energy, and effort on what matters. Results. This is how you kind of compound and scale those findings with your results, right? If you widen your coverage by engaging the ethical hacking community, you're expanding now your reach across multiple areas of your digital attack surface, and you can put more things in scope and continue to harden your attack surface. And innovation, right? We really believe that a lot of these solutions we're offering within the offensive security space, a lot of these security teams see these as very innovative, right? Bug bounty program. Let's partner with the ethical hackers so that they can actually find these critical vulnerabilities, right? So we're engaging security researchers in a very ethical and innovative way. And on the right side of the screen here, you can see some of the brands we work with, everything from financial services, technology giants, entertainment providers. Again, it's 2025. So almost every company out there, as they look to grow their digital attack surface, is growing in some way, whether it's their web applications, mobile applications, developing their own AI technologies as well. So if you really wanted to sum up why HackerOne is a great security tool for your organization, right? Let's think about complete security testing. Traditional security tools maybe only relied on that singular point in time testing. Oh, we'll just do a pen test every quarter, right? That's all that our auditors require. Attackers aren't waiting for those quarterly pen tests. They're moving 24/7. So it's really important to kind of have this continuous security testing program in place, so you really have a 360 degree angular coverage. Vulnerability elimination workflow, right? We're not just here to throw more vulnerabilities at you so that we kind of backlog your team with, oh my gosh, now we have all these vulnerabilities we have to fix. How do we fix them? We want to integrate with your existing tool stack so that you have the information you need. You can rank the vulnerabilities based on criticality, and you're really spending your time on what matters. And continuous learning, right? All the security teams that we work with in both the enterprise and commercial space, they love to see what we're providing when it comes to these vulnerabilities. How does their team learn? How do they get this back to the right people so they don't make those mistakes again and that they can close those security gaps? This is our defense in depth model. 6 feet under, if you will, here on Halloween, 6 feet under with the defense in depth model, right? So, at the top, when we think about secure by design, this is a lot of the different code that we're doing right now. Think about different code security audits that happen in place. How do we catch things at the very molecular level so that it's before even in the public domain, we're catching these security risks? This then leads into things like application security testing, some of those tool sets that might catch those more known vulnerabilities, if you will. A lot of organizations are doing pen testing. Although pen testing is a great offensive security practice, again, a lot of companies are doing it for compliance right now. Traditional pen tests are going to miss things that the bug bounty program might catch, right? It's those more elusive vulnerabilities. So really leaning into this defense in depth model will make sure that your organization is catching vulnerabilities at all stages of the software development lifecycle, right? We're not just focused on one area. We really want to see where we risky, how can we fix it, and then fix these things at scale. Something I think I forgot to mention here is our AI safety and security solutions, right? So if your team is thinking about deploying any AI technologies, whether that's white label technologies or other generative AI projects that you're looking to deploy, things like LLMs, this is really where you want to have AI safety and security checks in place. So there are security researchers on the HackerOne platform who specialize in some of these attacks, things like prompt engineering. We have capture the flag events. One of our more notable ones over this past year was our partnership with Snap and our capture the flag event with Snap, and using security researchers to find things that might have been producing insensitive content, to minors on the application, as an example. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get creative with these AI safety and security testings to make sure that those technologies are safe. And that is our presentation today from HackerOne.
Thank you so much, Jack. And I wanted to say to everyone in the chat as well, if you have any questions about HackerOne and their work within the security space, I'm sure, Jack, you'll be on for a little bit longer. So please put questions in the chat. We would love to answer them as we go on. I also wanted, oh, yeah,
I
Vivian.
have a quick question for Jack. For those in the audience who either, if they're on the company side and they want to get started with a bug bounty program or work with HackerOne, or if someone is in the audience who, is a ethical hacker and wants to get involved on that side, how should they get in touch with HackerOne, Jack?
Absolutely, right? So with the bug bounty programs, we like to think of these as a crawl, walk, run approach, right? So from day one, it's not like a light switch where you turn the light on and now, we're flooding you and your team with all these vulnerabilities that the community has found. We really believe in the crawl, walk, run approach. Real world example. A lot of organizations are first publishing something called a responsible disclosure program. And that is simply an area online, maybe on your website, on your security policy page that says, hey, if you're finding anything in the wild, our security team wants to know about it. And creating that intake form is a very, very simple and easy step to get your feet wet, right? That first step into the water. And then as we start to ramp up, right, into that walk run approach, now you can widen your search. Maybe you want to work with security researchers who have X amount of skills, X amount of experience in this skill set, as an example, right? So really scaling at a reasonable time. And that's where it's important to partner with the right company in the space, is making sure your team's not overwhelmed. So we have a lot of great resources. Actually, today we have something called the Essential VDP. So if this sounds interesting to you, again, with that concept of making the world a safer place, we really believe that every organization should, at bare minimum, have this responsible disclosure program. And it's a really great way to showcase to your customers, your clients, and your partners, hey, we take security seriously. We have this existing channel set where people can report things if they find it in the wild, and our team will go to fix it. So we really believe in that scalability. If you want to hack on the platform as well, HackerOne is open to people who would like to make money on the platform finding vulnerabilities. You can join online. That process is a little bit different, but we do have an area where you can go and sign up as a hacker and start to participate in programs.
Great. Thank you, Jack. And just a note, Bitwarden has been working with HackerOne. They've been a great partner for us on a bug bounty program. So Bitwarden, as an open source company, community focused, working with HackerOne really aligns to those foundations for us. In addition to, community testing our code, Bitwarden also runs third-party audits. We do all of the right things, but working with HackerOne in bug bounty, it's just adding additional security for everyone. So thank you, HackerOne. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you for your partnership.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. I'm going to hop on over to our slides again. I think, as we're talking about identifying bugs and, trying to find ways for your organization to be more secure with these kind of bug bounty programs, another really great way for your organization to be secure is to transition your employees from using a browser-based password manager to something end-to-end encrypted like Bitwarden. So I believe it was Sai who's going to show us a little bit about
Yep.
what the direct importer for browser looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. Today I am going to talk about being able to directly import your data from your browser to Bitwarden. So, if you attended one of our previous sessions, you might have seen how we introduced the ability to bring your data over from iOS with CXP. So that was very cool. So really, we're trying to get away from having those CSV exports whenever possible. You've got that additional security concern of maybe leaving that file somewhere where you shouldn't. And our next step in that process is allowing you to directly import your data from your browser. So we recently introduced the ability to import directly from Microsoft Edge, Vivaldi, and Opera right into the Bitwarden desktop app. Now, right now, this is only going to be available in the Bitwarden desktop app and just for these browsers, but we are planning on both more browsers coming soon and bringing this to our other Bitwarden apps. And if we move on, we've got a quick preview of what that looks like. So you just go to import your data, decide where you want to save it to, choose one of those relevant browsers, and you'll have a new option. So rather than needing to import via CSV, you can choose right from your browser, and you'll see, just like if you imported from a CSV, that successful import pop-up. So yes, Brave is coming soon, as well as Google Chrome. But for right now, just those three, with more coming soon.
Great, thank you, Sai.
Absolutely.
And as we're talking about vulnerabilities within your organization or within your personal security structure, it's always important to have an kind of emergency plan B backup plan. So Vivian's going to share a little bit about that.
Great. Thanks, Casey. You can move to the next slide. Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Vivian. Thanks for being here. And let's face it, life happens. And sometimes life will give you lemons. And believe it or not, I actually did not plan for this. It just all kind of fell into place this morning. So if anyone was wondering why I had this huge life sign on my chest, this is my costume. So anyway, sometimes people get locked out of accounts, they lose access to their devices, or something unexpected comes up. When that happens, you don't want your important passwords and credentials to be lost forever. And so there are different ways that we've listed out here to protect your Bitwarden account. So first is take good care of your main Bitwarden password. There are lots of different ways for people to do that. If you have a good idea, please share them in the chat. I know some people have it stored in an actual safe deposit box, or they have it stored in different places, in different secure places, locations, to make sure that their password is safe and secure, and they can access it if they forget it. Definitely safeguard your Bitwarden email address as well. So making sure that the email address that is associated with your Bitwarden account is also safeguarded. Definitely enable 2FA for Bitwarden in your email account, keeping track of your authentication and recovery codes. And most recently, we were making this a lot easier because we also launched the Bitwarden Security Readiness Kit. And Ryan, maybe you can share that link with the folks here, because I think you were instrumental in creating that kit. And it just makes everything easier for you to track. Definitely back up your vault. And then also today, we're going to focus on setting up emergency access, because that is something that every so often we get a customer support request, and people who are kind of a little bit desperate because they thought that they were set as an emergency contact, and they weren't, and they're not able to gain access to their person's vaults, and it creates a lot of chaos. And most of why this happens is because they didn't complete the 3-step process. And so today we're going to walk through each step. And as a reminder, if you want to set up emergency access, it is a 3-step process. So we're going to walk through that. Next slide. So the first way to get this started is to get into emergency access, which you can do in your account settings. And that's on the upper right-hand corner of your Bitwarden account. And I'm using the web app here. So this is what it looks like there. And then in the account settings, click on emergency access. Next slide. And then after that, I have set up a fake friend. My friend Regina will be my emergency access. So when you click on emergency access, it will have you enter the email of the person that you have designated as your emergency contact. Like I said, my friend Regina will be my emergency contact here, and I have entered her email address. I can designate her to have view access. So this means that she can view the vault items appearing only and read only on screen, or I can have her take over the account. So that means Regina would be able to set a new password for my account and disable the 2FA for that. I can also designate, can you go back a little bit? I can also designate the wait time. So for her, the wait time is kind of like a safety valve. So, if for some reason she accidentally triggers the emergency access and didn't mean to, or something happens, you can still approve or reject during that window of time if a request is unexpected. I should also note that Regina does not need to have a premium account. She would just need to have a free Bitwarden account to set this up, or to be able to be my emergency contact. Next slide. So once I have Regina added, she will receive an email that looks like this. So this will be going into Regina's email inbox. Regina would then click on Become Emergency Contact. She has to click on that button. Next slide. And then after she clicks on that button, if she doesn't have a Bitwarden account, she would need to create one, or if she already has a Bitwarden account, she can log into that account. Next slide. So this is back to my email now. So once Regina has accepted my invitation, I will get a notification that Regina has accepted. Now, it doesn't end here. I need to confirm Regina. So that means I would need to log back into the Bitwarden Web Vault, go to the settings, and confirm the user. Next slide. And so that's what that will look like. So I will need to go back into my Bitwarden account, see that Regina has accepted. The last step is I need to confirm her. A lot of people do not realize that they need to confirm their emergency contact. And this is where the kind of process gets broken, and people end up not being able to access the vault if needed. So this is the last and final step. This is really important. So confirm. And that's when the emergency access is finally completed. And you can see the contact that Regina is listed here as my emergency contact. So remember, it's a 3-part handshake. You have the invitation, you're inviting your trusted contact. The person has to accept the invitation. And then the final step is you have to then confirm it. The reason for this is to preserve the Bitwarden zero encryption model. You need to have both users exchange the public keys and then verify them securely without exposing the private keys. And that is it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Vivian. And then, Ryan, thank you for answering the question in the chat as well regarding the viewing attachments as well, and then send. Is there anything you want to call out verbally there?
Yeah, I'm reaching out to the team about the send email to OTP. I did see a demo of that soon, but we'll be taking. I'll get some information on that here. I see a question here too from Daniel. Will we see a desktop app beta soon? Auto type passkeys. We don't typically have a beta channel for a desktop app, but we will have auto type available through to very specific customers who need to preview it soon. That's still under development. That will be functionality for that we should start seeing in November, but that will be kind of like a one-off basis. So if you have a need for that, you can reach out to customer success. And passkeys, there hasn't been any additional development on that as of yet. Maybe by the end of this year, we'll see some additional movement. Casey, I think for my section here, I'd like to share some of these slides.
Yeah,
unshare, I'll bring in my screen. So the centralized ownership structure that I'll be going through here is like more of a business feature. So any business people who might be looking at this on YouTube or any other channel a little bit later, and this is the only section you're looking at, it is Halloween and we're doing this. I don't normally just dress up like a barbarian on my usual everyday thing. So we are a professional company. Thumbs up. All right. So the centralized ownership structure, it really is something that helps set Bitwarden apart when you're looking at a password management solution in which teams are sharing with each other and even just like storing things securely. And so I'm just going to run through pretty quickly what that means. So with Bitwarden, you're able to scale really securely and at pretty much any scale, thanks to the architecture that we have. And there are two major things that you need to understand when you see this. First, everything with Bitwarden, when you're sharing, everything goes into a single centralized vault, just one, and it's centralized and owned by the organization. And then access to those items is provided through collections. So to help visualize, I have this little nifty little chart here. So in Bitwarden, we're talking about already, you have an organization vault, and any item that's shared is in that vault and owned by the organization. And this is the only place where these items will ever exist. There's not like there's like another folder or anything like that. It's all simply in one place. Access to these items come from the collections, which are these here. So the items get assigned to collections, and then the collections are assigned to users and groups, or groups of users. So it's a little bit different than a decentralized solution. And in my opinion, this is very easy to understand. I think it's very intuitive. Every item is in that one centralized vault. And this provides many benefits. So first, the organization owns all of the shared items. This simplifies reporting. So you don't have to rely on reports from different individual users. You have a full view of everything that's in the vault, and provides for easy succession and offboarding. So if a user leaves the organization, anything that they shared remains in the vault. And so there's no disruption to other people who rely on those shared credentials. Everything is in this one place. So if you're using a solution that has multiple vaults, for example, you can actually share with other teams without having to share the entire vault. And this means that you don't have to create any duplicates to maintain privacy or any shortcuts, which you'll see from some of Bitwarden's competitors. And then also, it really simplifies access management. It's really easy to add people, remove people. You have granular levels of sharing, and really makes it easy to set up for least privilege access. Just for a contrast illustration here, let's look at a decentralized password manager. These icons happen to be yellow for no purpose or reason. Don't read into it. But in decentralized password managers, they have no shared vault. And instead, each user kind of acts like their own mini organization. They have their own folders that they put items in, and then they choose who to share those items with. And so it quickly becomes this tangled web of sharing where people have access to who knows what. Admins actually have very little view into who has access to what, because, or even what these items are, because sharing with admins is sometimes optional depending on the settings. And most by default, like the user would have to share their items with the admin in order for the admins to be able to make changes if necessary. And this causes a big problem if somebody leaves the organization, because what happens is that if they leave and their account is removed, everything that they shared with other people gets removed. And then any item that other people put in their shared folder that they were collaborating on gets deleted and then needs to be recovered. And so this is like a big headache and part of the decentralized process. And this is just a result of some of these password managers who are decentralized or have this type of setup were originally designed in their architecture for user to user sharing. They were basically just having a consumer point of view. But then when they try taking the solution that they built for user to user sharing and applying it to a larger organization, a lot of these problems became inherent. And so you'll see folks talking about this on social media if you browse any of the subreddits about this, particularly sharing and offboarding is like a huge issue. And then something that doesn't get often talked about enough is the lack of visibility for reporting and vault health. And so like just as a, just compare these two things, it's very complicated versus a simplified solution that stems all from the centralized vault. So this is kind of the long and short of the Bitwarden architecture for business and how Bitwarden is really truly built for business and sharing and management at scale. So I know that we have a lot of folks in here who are consumer focused, but for people who are interested in managing a team or even families, if you have a family plan, it actually works the same way. Everything goes in the centralized family vault. I know sometimes especially for smaller families or groups, they might have trouble understanding that concept, but it works the exact same way. Cool. Any questions about this? Let me look at the chat here. All right, I see the question from Bert. Yeah, there was a discussion regarding improving the send feature to add things like TOTP. I asked about that. Okay, I need to speak with one other person, and I should be able to get that answer here soon in a moment. I'll send out a Slack message to someone.
Great. Thanks,
and then the
Ryan.
next thing that I wanted to talk about is vault hours for 2026. So first, it's hard to believe that we're already about to hit November, which is tomorrow. And we've been doing vault hours every month in the last Friday of the month for the last little bit, and we're probably only going to have one more. I don't know if we settled on. I think we're going to do one more in early December so that we don't interfere with holidays in November and December for this year. And we really want to hear your feedback on what you want to see out of these events. Like whether that be more deep dives into things or whatnot. So please take a moment. I don't think I actually set a poll up for this, so sorry. But if you guys have any ideas, please go ahead and drop that in chat now. I'll also be posting polls out to our social media platforms and to our forums as well, just to get some additional stuff. So like basically what we want is that we want to have a larger audience of folks that are live. You guys who's here are doing an excellent job engaging and talking with us, but we'd like to see more from more people and like have it actually be more of a back and forth dialogue. And also, everybody loves product updates, and we're bringing on some excellent guests like our HackerOne, but we want like our HackerOne guest, but we definitely want to help make everything a little bit even more appealing to keep everybody in rapt attention for so far 53 minutes. And counting. So if you have any ideas, please let us know here and on Reddit and on our forums or anything like that. We would just love to hear your feedback as we look at taking this to another level. Anyone have anyone that on the stage have any ideas or things to throw around?
I mean, personally, I would love to see more guests. Jack from HackerOne did a great job today, and I, love hearing different perspectives from different individuals within the security community. So if that's something you would also like to see, maybe put it in the chat and see, if having a little bit more of different industry experts from a variety of different specializations are interesting for people.
Absolutely. Thanks, Casey. And then, we're going to continue on, but if you have any ideas, please go ahead and put it in chat. And then lastly, we have one more thing, and that is our Bitwarden store giveaway that we do at the end of every Vault Hours. So if you would go to bitwarden.com/shop, we actually have some beautiful sweaters now that the weather is getting a little chillier here in the Northern Hemisphere. Fill out the contact form there on bitwarden.com/shop. mention that you heard about the Vault Hours 57 giveaway, and then submit your comment there at the email address that you wish to be contacted at. And we will notify you by email that you've won, and we'll give you the instructions that you need for that. So please, no repeat winners. If you've already won before, please don't submit again. And we are doing it within 24 hours for the folks who did register for this and might not be able to immediately watch it live. So go anyone who's still watching, and it's November 1st your time at noon, actually 1 p.m. Eastern. You still have time to go ahead and submit. So go ahead and take care of that now.
And Ryan, it looks like we do have a piece of feedback from Daniel saying that they're mostly happy as is for Vault Hours, but if anything, they'd like to see more product previews, insights into development status on the roadmap, and possible new things on the roadmap. Yeah, that's really great feedback. And, we try and have insights into some new product enhancements every Vault Hours, but good to know that that's something that you're interested in. Thank you, Daniel.
And then like some community affirmation from that Bert here is saying, like, it'd be good to have some success stories listed and some folks come on. It's always good to have some promoters come and talk about us and make everyone feel great. I did get some feedback on the TOTP email. That stuff has actually been on pause to pick up the direct importer work for the browsers. And the team, now that that is released, the team is going to begin working on that later this quarter. So there's some additional details on that.
Lovely. Thank you, Ryan. Well, thank you everyone for joining. If you have any more pieces of feedback or questions for our team, please put it in the chat. Oh yeah, company collabs, feature spotlights, updates to specific integrations. Oh, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. That's great piece of feedback, Adrian. Cool. Yeah. So I think we'll hang on here, right? Per usual. Feel free to ask any more questions, add any more feedback in the chat. We'll be here, but I'll put on some more spooky music for everyone because I don't know about you, but I enjoyed that.